This episode is brought to you by La Quinta by Wyndham. Your work can take you all over the place, like Texas. You've never been, but it's going to be great because you're staying at La Quinta by Wyndham. Their free Bright Side breakfast will give you energy for the day ahead. And after, you can unwind using their free high-speed Wi-Fi. Tonight, La Quinta. Tomorrow, you shine. Book your stay today at lq.com.
Today on CityCast Madison. It's happening, y'all. Madison's bus rapid transit is rapidly making headway in our city. And we know you've got questions, because you've sent them our way. How's this going to work? What's changing, and what will you need as a rider? Madison Metro's Interim Chief Development Officer, Mike Roosh, joined CityCast Dylan Brogan to get your questions answered. It's Tuesday, April 16th. I'm Bianca Martin, and here's what Madison's talking about.
Mick, thank you for joining me on CityCast Madison.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right, we're going to get a lightning round of questions on BRT. But first, let's just start with, where are we at with the project itself? Like, what phase are we at? When is it coming?
It is coming this fall. We are still working on a launch date. Roughly, we are looking to launch at the end of August, but we still have to finish completion of our BRT stations and get a few other things in order. But right now, our target date is the end of August.
So I've seen the long accordion style buses on the road, but when will we actually get to ride these new buses?
I know we are very excited about those buses, and we've been getting a lot of people that are expressing that same interest in riding that you just mentioned. Basically, those are part of the BRT project. So overall, we are going to launch those fully once we launch BRT. That being said, you might see them out on the road right now because we have trainers that are out learning how to drive them and teach other drivers how to learn them. So we are getting all of our drivers, sending them through a training program right now. We have a test route out there. And I've been seeing them more and more because we're getting more and more buses in from the factory. So we're able to train more and more drivers. That being said, we are going to try to test 2 buses out on the UW campus routes this summer. And then we are hoping at the beginning of June, we'll have 2 buses out on the Route 80.
Okay, and the Route 80, that's one of the UW routes.
Correct.
Okay. Well, we'll talk more about those big, long buses in a minute, but let's start with the bus stops, because right now, that's what people are noticing on the road. So we have a bunch of listener questions here and readers submitted to us. Okay. So we'll start with Valerie, and she wants to know, how do the new bus stops work? The stop is on the opposite side of the bus doors. This seems counterintuitive and not safe. So how do people get on and off the central islands?
That is a great question. And I should start with saying that we are going to make some training videos as soon as we get some of the stations done so we can help people visualize this a little better. So on the curb side of a bus, there's going to be a set of doors in the front, in the middle, and the rear. And then there's also on the street side of the bus, there's also doors on the middle and the rear of the bus. So we have doors throughout the vehicle. So depending on which side of the BRT station the bus boards at, you'll be able to get off and on that side safely.
Okay, so if you're on East Wash where people are noticing these stations, there'll be a door on the left.
Correct.
Okay. I know there's some concerns about just safety with the bus stops in the middle of the busy streets. Valerie would like to know a little bit more about that.
Well, I know we've had that concern raised a few times. And the first of all is a lot of these BRT stations, I should say at all of them, we are improving the pedestrian access. So there's going to be crosswalks, there's going to be improved traffic lights and that kind of thing. But also, if you are taking the bus to and from a destination, right now you would have to get to one side of the street or other. You'd have to cross the entire street to get to that stop if you're going to make a round trip. So right now we are saying to people that actually to ride the route, you just have to cross half the street twice rather than the full street once. So we think it's a shorter trip across the street. But like I said, we are improving the infrastructure around the station so that it is quite safe for pedestrians.
Okay, there's doors on all sides.
Correct, doors on all sides.
Okay, this is a question from Haley, not our newsletter editor, but another Haley. She said, the construction has added a bit of noise pollution to my life, and I'm just wondering what the point of the new bus stands are for BRT. Is it that they're adding additional stops? Why are these bigger structures necessary for BRT?
Well, they are making it, and we've had to look at light rail a lot through the years, and light rail is just a more expensive option. So we are trying to utilize BRT and make it like a light rail system, but it is a lot more flexible. So these stations that we're building kind of mimic a light rail station. We're going to have amenities like heaters, and we're going to have ticket vending machines. So it's just going to be a more comfortable place to wait for your bus. So this is just a way to make it just much more convenient and enticing for current riders and even new riders to give us a try, having these better improved shelters to wait for stops.
Okay, so they're going to look more like a light rail train stop than a traditional bus stop.
Correct.
Okay, so why is the north-south BRT route delayed compared to the east-west route?
It's not so much of a delay. That's always been the plan. Basically, it's about a $150 million project for the east-west. And so we had to apply for federal funding both times. So we started with the east-west route first. That's our main arterial that we've had for years. So we started with that route. And we just applied for federal funding for the north-south route, and that's looking pretty good for us. Actually, we've been slotted. We're in Biden's budget. The budget hasn't been passed yet, but the north-south route is earmarked to get that same funding. So it's just we couldn't do them both at the same time. So we're going to do one. We're going to do the east-west route, which is our Route A, and then we are looking in 2028 to do Route B. That being said, we got all the electric buses to do both routes with this first round of federal funding. So we are going to have electric buses, those accordion-style buses. They're going to be out on the road this fall as part of the implementation of the Route A route. So both routes are going to be electrified at the end of the year.
Okay, now that was Kaylin who asked that question. She's also, and I think this, there is some general confusion here. She asks, will the BRT function as a regular bus outside of the downtown area? So it's always a bus, right? So I guess this east-west route, what is the difference between a BRT route and a regular bus route?
The difference is going to be, well, first of all, the Route A is going to board at the BRT stations, and they're not going to board at regular routes along the way. So it's going to cut through traffic. It's not going to stop as many stops, and it's going to work with our traffic lights so that it'll have green lights longer so that it'll be more convenient to go through traffic. That being said, those same buses, and this goes along to light rail versus BRT, is since we are doing BRT, we can be much more flexible with these buses. So what's going to happen is when they get to the end, like on the west side of the BRT route, that vehicle is going to continue as a local route out into the Middleton area, switch around, act like a regular bus, just board at the front door and that kind of thing. And then it's going to come back and get onto the BRT route and serve the stations again. So it's going to act like a BRT bus. It's going to board at the stations. And then once it gets past the system of stations, it's going to go out into a neighborhood like Middleton and act like a regular bus.
So the main difference really is the length of the bus and the stations.
Correct.
This episode is brought to you by ShipStation. If you run an e-commerce business, you know how much work it takes to produce something great while dealing with complicated shipping issues. That's why over 130,000 companies have turned to ShipStation, an innovative tool that allows you to focus less on shipping and more on building your brand. With ShipStation, you can manage orders, label printing, reporting, and customer service on one easy-to-use dashboard. You'll reduce warehouse costs with reliable enterprise solutions and save thousands on shipping costs with discounts up to 89% off. Plus, you can effortlessly import orders from everywhere you sell online. So, turn your shipping challenges into opportunities for growth. Go to ShipStation.com and use code POD to sign up for your free 60-day trial. That's ShipStation.com, code POD.
Okay, let's talk about the buses themselves. So we're just wondering how you're going to pay for your ride and if that's changing. When is that happening?
That is also something very exciting. We've been cramming a lot of improvements into Metro all in the same year. So we are very excited to say we are going to get smart card technology that is being worked on right now. We hope to do a launch of that this summer sometime. We need to have it in place before BRT launches because this smart card boarding is going to help us keep buses moving along more quickly on the BRT route. We're putting readers on the front and the back of all buses, and that is going to be hooked in with an account-based smart card system. And we just got approval from the Transportation Commission last month to move ahead with the program. But basically, you can fill out an account online. We're going to do something called fare capping, where you're going to get all the deals, like the 31-day multiple ride deal. You're going to get all that ahead of time. So basically, fare cap, it's hard to explain all at once, but I'll just say that we have a daily pass, which is $5. So basically, if you go on, you can put $20 in your account and you just tap it every time you ride. Once, and you'll get charged $2, and then you'll get charged another $2. The third ride, where you hit the $5 daily pass ride, you're going to ride free the rest of the day. So then you have a weekly cap as well. So you keep riding those daily rides, and once you hit a weekly cap of $16.25, your rides are free the rest of the week. And then we have a monthly cap as well. And then you ride free the rest of the month once you hit that monthly cap, which is the price of our current monthly pass, which is $65. So basically, you get to the discounts without having to pay for that expensive pass right up front. You just get it along the way. And if you don't hit that $65, that's fine. You just paid for what you used that month.
Okay, so big changes to the fare system, but should be a little bit easier to get the deals that currently are there.
Yeah, the best part about it is you don't have to go to an outlet or to Metro to buy a pass every month. You just get it on your smart card. In 6 months, you're actually going to be able to board the bus using a tap credit card, and you can just tap on those readers and you'll get the same fare capping as you would with a smart card. That's just something that our vendor needs another 6 months to roll out. And in future months, too, we're going to be rolling out an app and the ability to board the bus just using your phone on those readers. So we have a lot of improved things just with our fare technology. And I want to say ahead of time that with these improvements, our fares aren't going to go up.
Okay.
There are some people that have expressed some concern that we're not using the 10 ride card any longer. And that was a discount that they were counting on. And we are going to have that available. We are going to go back to the Transportation Commission in a couple of years and see if that's something we still need, because it's part of our old system, and our new system is just going to be a lot more convenient for everyone. But I just wanted to let everyone know that we're going to be transitioning out. We're going to have the same type of products with this new fare technology. And we've also had some concern that you need to use the computer to get these items, to create an online account. And for those that aren't comfortable with using their phone or their computers, that's okay. We're going to have sales outlets throughout the city. You can get a smart card and you can load it at the sales outlet, or you can come to Metro and load the card too. So it's not just for computer users or for phone users.
So there'll be a variety of options. Okay.
Yes.
And I know we had a question from Dick. The BRT bus and just the regular Metro bus, are the fares the same?
Yes. You'll be able to go back and forth. I mean, once you get into the smart card system, you can transfer using the smart card. You can transfer from a BRT bus to the local routes. They're actually set up that way. The local routes feed into the BRT routes, and the BRT routes, you can drive along, or you ride along, and then you can get further outside that route using the local routes. So yes, you can go back and forth.
So like the transfers that they have now, there'll be something similar?
Well, actually, how it works is you can use your smart card, and the smart card is just going to act like a 2-hour pass. So currently our transfers are for 2 hours. So basically you tap your card, it's going to deduct $2, for example, and then it's just not going to charge you. You tap every time you ride, but it's not going to charge you until you're past that 2-hour transfer window. So you're not going to have that paper transfer any longer. It's just all going to work on our smart card system.
Okay. Well, that sounds like a big enough change right there, Mick. So yeah. So let's get on to kind of actually being the buses themselves, these new BRT buses. So Karen asks, will I be able to get on a new bus using my electric 3 or 4-wheeled scooter?
Yeah, if that scooter is something that you are riding on regular buses with right now, then yes, you'll be able to ride on our new electric buses as well. We can send a supervisor if you're concerned. We can send a supervisor out to check the scooter to make sure it meets the dimensions that fit onto our vehicles. But if it's something that she's using right now, then yes, there's no problem in riding our electric buses.
And we had a few questions about this, like how will accessibility of BRT buses work for riders in a wheelchair?
Lots of exciting stuff. You will be able to board at the BRT station. The stations are all accessible. There's going to be ramps to get into the stations. You will utilize the middle door, and we're going to put markings on the BRT stations where wheelchair users should board. And we're going to have a standard wheelchair securement area, just like we have right now, and you would just utilize it just like you do right now. But we also, on the electric buses, one of the securement areas is actually electric, where you can go in and you can hit a button and it's going to encase your wheelchair automatically, and then a driver will just come in and help you hook up the seatbelt. So we're going to do a video on that to kind of help people visualize that as well. But one area is going to be just like we do right now, and another one's going to have some new technology on it that'll make it even easier to hook up and get situated for the ride.
Okay, so either it's going to work about the same as it does now or hopefully a little better in some cases.
Correct. Yes.
How about just like if you're riding a bike? Right now you got to put them on the front. Will there be any changes for bike riders?
Yes, we're going to actually have that marked on where to board. Bike riders should board in the BRT stations, and those are going to board in the rear of the bus. We have bike racks inside the bus that's accessible through the rear doors. So you would go in, and there's a rack where you can put your tire, and then there are some straps that hook into your bike to secure it in place. And we're also going to do a video on that to show that to everybody, and we'll have that posted because, yeah, there's definitely some different changes, but you just wheel that from the BRT station right onto the bus and you put it into the rack. And it'd be much easier than just putting it on the front of the bus.
On the bus, though, you bring your bike on the bus.
Bring it right on the bus, yes.
Good thing they're longer then, I guess.
Yes.
Now, these BRT buses will have a BRT lane. So Caitlin wrote in that she's a little bit confused about how cars can or cannot use the BRT lane. She'd like to hear some details about how these new long accordion buses will interact with cars and bikes in the new BRT system.
Well, they're running through the center lanes in a lot of the areas so that there is less conflict with bikes and turning vehicles and parked delivery trucks and that kind of thing. That's why they're in the center, to kind of keep them away from the right side. That being said, we're going to make a video that shows that how traffic would operate around the buses. Basically, we're going to do a community outreach to everybody and just say, here's what our bus is, here's what to expect. Please stop for pedestrians as they're crossing to get to these stations. And basically, it's just going to take a lot of just everyone getting acquainted with how things work. All
right. Well, I'm looking forward to these videos. So there will be a time, though, when only the bus can use the BRT lane.
That is correct, yes.
Okay, and then, but during rush hour, it's going to be a different story.
No, actually, that is when the buses will be in those dedicated lanes for sure, is those rush hours.
So Becky was wondering, if you're on East Wash and you want to turn left, is that going to still be possible?
There are some left turns that have been eliminated in front of the stations. You won't be able to turn left in front of those stations like that. So that will start to happen once those stations open.
So I know one was by Breeze where you can't take left over maybe on Patterson or Livingston. What about like over by First Street? That's a big street. There's a dedicated left lane, I believe, on First in East Washington.
I know the one over here on Baldwin where we're at, the left turn will be eliminated. I think the good way to just understand is that you won't be able to turn left in front of those stations any longer.
Okay, so you can't take left in front of the stations. Can you give us a quick, even if it's a little incomplete, about where those stations are?
They're located throughout the city. I want to say we have about 40, and they're located on the Route A route on Mineral Point Road, East Washington Avenue. There's going to be a couple on the Capitol Square, State Street, basically all along our current Route A. We did our huge service change last year to prepare for BRT, and so our Route A was developed last year to be the BRT route. So anything along the Route A is where our stations would be.
All right, we have a tough question from Rich. To be blunt, he says, in the first week of operation, I would not be surprised if there were 2 pedestrian deaths and at least 4 crashes between buses and other vehicles. How many deaths is Metro predicting in the first weeks of operation for BRT?
We are predicting 0 deaths. We are preparing our drivers right now. It's April, and we're learning how to drive right now. And right now, they're learning how to drive the buses safely throughout the city. And we are learning this summer, once the stations are completed, we're learning how to interact as a phase 2 part of the driving. We're learning how to interact at the stations. We're learning how to drive through traffic in the dedicated lanes. We're learning all those things. We are monitoring everything very closely, and we know there is that concern out in the community, but we are training our drivers, and we have been designing the system with safety in mind for pedestrians, for motorists, for drivers. And we just have professional drivers that have been driving through the city for years, and we just aren't expecting that. We are training everybody, and we are just going to do everything we can to make the system as safe as possible.
And do you think the BRT bus system will be just as safe as the current system?
Yes, that's what we're expecting. Right now, in our regular buses, our drivers have a lot to deal with. When you're driving down State Street, they're already driving through high density areas with a lot of pedestrians around. So, I mean, if you're a bus driving through like a football game traffic on Saturdays or that kind of thing, I mean, our drivers are professionals and are used to dealing with that kind of thing. So we're not throwing anything out there that our drivers are not used to.
Nick, we really appreciate you taking the tough questions. We got one more from Corrine, and she asks, My biggest BRT question and concern is, will this actually increase ridership and cut down on car traffic in Madison? Could the city incentivize current non-riders to give it a try with free passes or something?
Well, right now that is not the plan, but that is a great question. And I'll tell you, that is the goal of BRT, is to increase. That is why we are doing it. These stations are meant to make a more convenient place to ride the bus. The smart card system is meant to entice riders to make it easier to ride the bus, where you can just, like a casual rider that just wants to try it out, they can just get on with a credit card. Having the ability for a bus to just go through traffic and hit greens the whole way, that's meant to make it more incentivizing for new riders. So yes, the goal is to reduce traffic. The goal is to make it more comfortable to ride the bus. And the electric buses, I mean, everyone throughout the country is excited about electric vehicles, but the city of Madison has been preaching electric vehicles for years, and we want to electrify the fleet. And we think these buses are quieter, they're cleaner, they're better for the environment. So we just think all these things we're implementing will get new riders on the bus. And quite frankly, we've had a lot of excitement about just seeing the buses on the street. People are like, when can we ride them? Just like you asked at the beginning. So we think just all these features we're adding. Metro was kind of, we had a lot of good ridership, but we were just kind of standing still in some of the new features we've been doing for a number of years. So now we are going ahead and making a lot of changes this year that I think it's just going to make it much more exciting and fun to ride the bus.
All right, Mick, thank you so much for taking the time to answer our questions. And I'm sure we'll have more, but we'll have you back on when we're getting closer to this fall, okay?
That sounds great. My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
That's Mike Roosh, Madison Metro's Interim Chief Development Officer. If you've got more questions for the city on its plan around BRT, head to our show notes for a link to their question page. That's all for today here on CityCast Madison. I'm Bianca Martin. If you enjoyed the show, why not share this episode with a bus driver? We'll be back tomorrow morning with more stories from around the city. Until then, be kind to one another.